If you have a seven-figure IRA, there's a very real chance that one of your largest assets is actually your biggest future liability, not because of bad investing or stock market crashes, but because of how you have it structured right now. So, what I'm going to walk you through today is a very real case study of a couple that has about $3.2 million and how restructuring just a few key pieces of their plan allowed them to increase their income, reduce their risks, improve their estate, and significantly reduce unnecessary fees, all without taking on more risk. And the strategy they used is something most traditional advisors not only never recommend, but probably don't know exist. And we call it annihilating your IRA. And I know it sounds extreme, but once you understand exactly what this means, it becomes very hard to unsee because the goal isn't to destroy wealth. The goal is to eliminate the structural inefficiencies that quietly drain these significant portfolios over time. And so the framework is really built around three specific problems that continue to show up over and over again. Number one, IRA and RMD, or required minimum distribution mismanagement, income inefficiency, and unnecessary fee drag. And the key idea here is simple. Most serious damage to large retirement portfolios doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly and quietly over time, like termites, not tornadoes. So let's walk through what this actually looked like in a real case. Now, we had a couple age 66 and 65. They had about 2.4 million in an IRA, 300,000 in a Roth, and about $500,000 in a after-tax brokerage account. So right around 3.2 million. They also had four kids, nine grandkids, and their primary goals were pretty straightforward. They wanted about 100,000 per year of additional income. They wanted to reduce their risk and improve their tax efficiency and ultimately leave as much as possible to their family and as little as they could to the IRS. So on the surface, everything looked great, but structurally, we had some major issues, three of them in particular. So the first was the IRA itself, right? About 75% of their money is sitting inside of this traditional IRA, which most baby boomers, they can say that's the truth, right? And it means that every dollar is fully taxable, subject to required distributions, and under current law, it'll have to be distributed within 10 years to their heirs. And the reality is that the more the IRA grows, the larger that future tax bill becomes, not just for them, but for their heirs who are likely going to be in their highest tax rates. And the second issue was how they were going to generate income. So they were using the traditional 4% withdrawal approach. Their advisor was telling them their 2.4 million could generate about 96,000 a year. The problem is that income isn't guaranteed. It depends on market performance, and it exposes them to sequence of returns risk. If markets don't cooperate early in retirement, that plan can break down very quickly, right? The third issue is fees. So they were paying about 0.95% on that portfolio to the advisor, and that might sound reasonable, but the long-term impact of that fee compounds in a way that most people fully don't appreciate and never really calculate. So instead of making small adjustments, the plan completely restructured how the portfolio functioned. The first step was addressing the tax problem. What we did was we converted 300,000 from the IRA into the Roth IRA over a 2-year period. So the tax bill was about $90,000, and importantly, we paid it from cash, not from the conversion itself. Now the IRA drops to about 2.1 million and the Roth increases to 600 grand. That Roth is now going to be positioned for tax-free growth, no required distributions, and significantly better treatment for heirs, right? They get it all free of taxes. And over time, at a reasonable rate of return, that alone is projected to grow at around $3 million tax-free. Now, the next step is where everything is changed, or is where we really change everything. So instead of using the IRA as a withdrawal account, what we did was reposition that 2.1 million into a joint lifetime income annuity, and we deferred it for 1 year. The result was in 1 year, they were able to generate about $180,000 per year of guaranteed income. Now, I want you to compare that to where they started with what we call the traditional or the conventional wisdom, the 4% rule, right? The old plan was they were going to get about 96,000 per year, but it was still dependent on the market. In the new plan with the annuity, we're going to get 180,000 per year contractually guaranteed for life. Now, that's almost 90% more income using less capital and removing market dependency entirely from that income stream. And this is where most people kind of have that aha moment, right? They've been using 100% of their portfolio to try to do everything at once, right? Generate income, grow it, manage risk, stay liquid, have flexibility. And what ends up happening is it doesn't do any of those things particularly well. So by separating the income function from the growth function, everything becomes more efficient. And here's the next key piece. they didn't really need 180,000 per year. They only needed 100 grand. So now we have roughly $60,000 per year of surplus income. What are we going to do with it? Well, instead of spending it, what we did was reinvested that capital. So that 60,000 per year invested consistently over time at a reasonable rate of return is going to grow to around another $3 million. So at the same time, remember we had the Roth, which is going to have 3 million. So now you're going to have this scenario where the original IRA is being systematically drawn down through income while new assets are being rebuilt in more tax efficient locations, right? So one asset is being consumed, the others are being rebuilt. And that's really the core of this strategy. So let's talk about fees. That's the third component that was really significant here because this is where I think the conversation needs to be more precise. Now, the goal is to not eliminate fees entirely. The goal is to stop charging fees on the incorrect assets, right? In the traditional conventional wisdom model, you might have a $3 million portfolio with a 1% fee. That's $30,000 per year, every year, and will get bigger as the portfolio grows. But in this structure, the income portion of the portfolio, which is the annuity, we're not managing that. It's engineered, so we're not charging an AUM fee on that portion. Now, when we isolate the growth portion of the portfolio, or in this case, roughly $1.2 million, and if we apply a 1% fee there, now we're paying around $12,000 instead of 30 per year. Again, that's a reduction of roughly 60% in fee exposure alone. And more importantly, the fee is now applied only to assets that actually benefit from that management. So this isn't about eliminating advice, it's about eliminating inefficiency. When you look at the full transformation of what we did for this plan, it's significant. So they went from about 96,000 per year of market dependent income to about 180,000 per year of guaranteed income. They reduced market exposure from over 90% to roughly 27%. They begin actively reducing the long term tax burden of the IRA, which is one of their biggest goals. And then they repositioned future growth into more tax efficient structures. We reduced unnecessary fee drag in a meaningful way, all while putting them in a path toward an estimated $6 million estate with far better tax characteristics for their heirs. And one of the most important concepts in all of this is the following: the balance of the IRA we are going to eventually draw down or annihilate to zero, but the income will never stop. That is a completely different way of thinking about retirement assets. And so at this stage of life, retirement planning is not about chasing higher rates of returns. It is about structuring income correctly, managing taxes intentionally, and eliminating unnecessary fees that drag on the portfolio. Because when you fix the structure, you don't just improve the portfolio, you can change the outcome by millions of dollars over time. So if you'd like to see how this would look in your specific situation with your actual numbers, your income need, your tax exposure, and your current fee structure, that's exactly what we build. Because once you see it laid out clearly, it becomes very difficult to go back to the traditional way of doing things. So in the description below, you'll find a link that will take you to our calendar. You can schedule a 30-minute strategy session there. We can get your questions answered and we can help point you in the right direction. I hope you enjoyed this video and we will see you on the next one.